Section 5, combining functions. So the previous three sections have mostly been about graphing functions. We've been looking at a lot of graphical representation for functions. This section is going to be primarily about the algebraic representation of functions. Now, before we get into combining two functions together, we really need to do a review on how to be able to write a function appropriately using a given equation. So example 5.1 wants us to do just that. We'll look at part A here. It says write each equation as a function. And let me remind you that a function is made up of two parts. Number one, it has to have a domain. And number two, there has to be some sort of rule to fulfill the map. Now the rule, in a lot of our cases, is going to be the equation. The equation is going to tell us how to create the map. The domain tells us which values to create the map with. So those are the two things that we have to have in order for a function to be defined. So when I start looking at this equation, it says y equals 3 times x minus 4. So I look at it and say, okay, if I pick some number to go in for x, x is going to represent a domain value. I'm going to take that domain value and I'm going to subtract 4 from that. And then I'm going to take whatever the result of that is, which is what's in the parenthesis, and I'm going to then multiply it by 3. Now, I can take any real number and I can subtract 4. And I can also take any real number and I can multiply it by 3. So these two operations, subtraction and multiplication, are not restrictive. They do not immediately eliminate real numbers. So the domain for this is going to end up being all real numbers. So we're going to come up with a name. We're going to call this f. And f is going to have a domain of all real numbers, which maps to all real numbers given by the equation f of x equals 3 times x minus 4. We did this in section 1, and we also did this in section 2 when we talked about the different parent function definitions. So again, this is just a review of how to, number one, write a function properly, and then number two, a discussion about domain. And again, the domain is this first set right here.